Good morning. Today's video was a special request. I'm actually going to do two videos. I had somebody ask if I would do a video on releasing trauma, and so I thought this would be a good time to actually preface not just what that entails and why, but the root cause of dysfunction from the training that I received. So it's thought a lot in the mainstream medical field that ADHD and dyslexia and anxiety are hereditary disorders that you get from your parents, you get from your grandparents, and they're passed down. And I believe that to an extent. And I say to an extent because I've seen that those dysfunctions can be completely turned around for a lot of people. So if they can, then is it really hereditary? And the answer is yes and no. So dysfunctions are hereditary in that what you get from your family is not the dysfunction itself, but the reaction to stress and trauma. So you're born, you're given a set of genes and characteristics that cause you to respond a specific way under stress and when you have trauma. So I like to relate this all to fight or flight, because that's literally what's going on. Almost, I would say 95% of the people that I've ever talked with are able to identify a stress or trauma really early in life, and for a lot of them it's birth. Birth is a traumatic experience, where that trauma is the beginning of this fight or flight cycle. Okay, now when we have a fight or flight response happen, our body changes its physiology in order to adapt to the stress. Okay, so in a really extreme example, if I was to walk around one of these corners and there was a wild animal that I wasn't prepared to meet, like a tiger or something, my brain would cause my body to start going to a physiological switch in order to address that trauma. Okay, but for most of our lives, the stress or trauma isn't necessarily met by those physiological changes. However, our body still goes through those changes, our brain still goes through those changes, and as a result, our function changes. So let me share a story with you. I've got a 4-year-old son, and not long after he was born, so when he was still really small, my wife decided she needed a break, and she definitely needed that. She took that break in the form of going to work for a few hours, and what happened was my son, she put him down for a nap when she went to work, right? Thinking that she would sneak away, and he knew it. He knew she left, and he was angry the whole time that she was gone at work. And I tried everything I could think of. I tried giving him a bottle, I tried bouncing him, I tried taking him outside. And that kid, he just had that angry scream. And he did that the whole time she was gone at work. And I could feel that he was mad. And a lot of you guys, you know what I'm talking about. When a baby's mad, they're mad, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. So now he's 4, and what happens is his brain and his body hasn't forgotten that trauma. Okay? His brain and body haven't forgotten that trauma. So one of the results of that physiological change that happened to him when he was so small is that he has this anxiety about not having his mom that's kind of not normal, right? Or at least not the way it should be. So if mom goes to do something, let's say she goes to the store or even goes in another room or something like that, and it's gotten a little better, but this is what happens. She goes, and his response now, because he can talk, is, why is mom leaving me? Kind of interesting. There's some other things that have come with that, but the point is, his brain and body haven't recovered from that initial stress or trauma, and so it's translated into behaviors that are unnecessary. They don't make sense. They don't fix the situation. They don't address the trauma. It's a fight or flight response, guys. Now, I'm not going to go into his mental dysfunctions that I've noticed that he's starting to develop. That's maybe a video for another time. But the point is, your genes are what give you your response to stress and trauma. So in future videos, and I'm hoping to do one today where I actually show you how to restore your original physiology to address that trauma, whatever it is, when it's related to a specific emotional experience. So I'll give you an example of that first, and then I'm hoping to do this video later where I actually show you how to do this. But I worked on a young girl several years ago, and she had a good, there was nothing wrong with her relationship with her dad, except that she wouldn't accept affection from him. Kind of interesting, right? And I never got the whole backstory, and I don't need to. I don't always like to get the whole backstory, but what do I know? Okay, the daughter, she won't accept affection from her dad. She won't go to her dad, like if she's upset, if she clearly needs affection or comfort, she won't go to her dad. Okay? And so her dad feels kind of left out as a father. He's got this girl who he wants to kind of be a daddy's girl. He loves her, and she won't go to him. And there's nothing apparent that he did wrong. There's nothing obvious, right? So this is kind of how the process works. Is I have the person think about the person or the situation or the thing that is causing that fight or flight mode to be triggered. And then we can use acupressure to restore the physiological change that took place. Okay, because what happens in a fight or flight is blood flow is getting redirected. Okay, that's why you experience a change in physiology. Okay, it changes where blood flow gets redirected in your brain, in your body. So if I'm running into a wild animal, naturally blood flow is going to get redirected to my extremities so that I can flight or fight the threat. And in the brain, the same thing happens. Blood flow is going to get redirected to areas to try and address the stress and trauma. So for this girl, there was something stressful or traumatic about receiving affection from her father. So what do? I just have her think about her father. Obviously, when that child is thinking about her father, some part of that physiology is going to be triggered. Okay? That's one of the beauties of children's minds. They can't not think about everything. So I have her think about her father, and her body starts to go into this physiological response. So then what we can do is actually capture the response and then address it by redirecting blood flow. And sometimes it's not redirecting blood flow to a specific area. Sometimes it is. We don't always know. But by redirecting blood flow, it's almost like we're saying to the brain, you don't have to change your physiology because of this stress and trauma. You can handle it. And then we get an indicator. So when I'm doing the work, there's a point when I'm doing the work when you can feel a difference in the blood flow of the brain. And I'm gonna try and remember to show you guys that in this video that I'm gonna make later today. But that's it. Okay, bottom line, just remember, dysfunction is not hereditary. Responses are. See you later.